You are now entering the Take Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, the managing editor of thetakeup.com. That's Andrew Wyatt. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Every episode, we decide if one film gets to enter the Take Up's permanent cinema. Today, we are handling a new release that's Colbert Mendoza Filho, and I'm going to struggle with that one, of course. His new film, The Secret Agent. And we've got a guest. Diane Carson is here with us too, and she's here to talk about Secret Agent, and then we'll have one more thing. Guys, I literally just finished Aquarius. And before that, I had literally just finished Neighboring Sounds.
You watched both of these today?
Well, don't tell my work. But those were new to me, and we can talk about them a little bit more. But first, I think we should introduce Diane Carson. That's Dr. Diane Carson. She is Alliance of, hold on, let me make sure I get Alliance of Women Film Journalists, right?
Yes.
And Professor Emeritus at St. Louis Community College. And, well, Diane, your credentials are longer than this 3-hour film.
Yeah, and they don't matter. That's perfectly fine. Telling everybody.
But Diane's our friend, too. And Diane, you and I were talking for a screening, and we both kind of looked at each other and said, The Secret Agent, The Secret Agent.
It is so good. I watched it twice, and honestly, I think I'm going to watch it again tonight. I am just bowled over by this film, by what he does without ever, I guess, standing on a platform and preaching to you about it. You know, the way he interweaves the personal with the political. And he said he wanted the political to be there, but he wanted to show the impact on people, on the individual.
I think that's actually just like a really great place to start, because I was also bowled over by this movie to give a preview of, a vote to come. I know I hadn't seen Neighboring Sounds or Aquarius before. I was a big fan of Baccarat, and I haven't seen it since it came out. It was a pandemic release. But I think, Andrew, it was on my list that year. Did you like Baccarat?
Yeah, I liked it. I don't think I was as enthusiastic about it as you, but I recall liking it.
Well,
and it's sort of like weird Western, like South American take on the weird Western vibes. Mm-hmm. Very strange, and also like full of radical politics. Like it's a very cool, interesting film. I don't necessarily think I was in love with it the way you were, though.
Well, by contrast, this film is so much more subtle. I mean, Baccarat just kind of overwhelms you. At least it did me. I kept wanting to kind of lean back from the screen, which is almost too much.
Disembodied hairy leg aside.
Yeah.
Well, wait, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Baccarat seemed like a riff on John Carpenter, but it was also a film about colonization and community, like all of his films are. Mm-hmm. But I think it'd be best to set up, who feel Mendoza. Mendoza. Right. Okay, we got it. Mendoza.
Yeah.
All of his films are very personal. He's a Brazilian filmmaker. He comes from the area called Recife, and 3 of his 4 narrative features are set there or around there. And this one is set in a lot of places in Brazil. Well, really 3 main places, and we can talk about that. But this one, like his other ones, is kind of an investigation of community. But this one is, I would say, if he's like like to think of him as a kind of novelist filmmaker. This one is like his version of a Le Carré, in that it is in the guise of, it's called The Secret Agent, but what's really going on is not the kind of espionage that's implied by it. It's a much more urgent political tale. Diane, you've seen it twice, but didn't you see it first time at Cannes?
Yes, I did.
Oh my
And
God, tell us about that, please.
well, I mean, the screening conditions there are just so beautiful and wonderful that I hope that most people, when it opens, see it on a big screen because
Right.
it is so beautifully shot.
Yeah.
And I mean, that'll come through if you're watching it on a good television screen. But it's just so gorgeous, and it was so well received. And of course, he got the best director award for it,
Mm,
and Mora got best actor. And
right.
I mean, people there were impressed with it, which doesn't always happen. People there are very happy to sit there for 10 minutes and boo a film. And this got like a 10-minute standing ovation or something. I mean, people really respected what he had accomplished in this film. And I went to the press conference with it too. And they were just so open and honest and responsive that you feel that in the film. And Moira said this was the first film he had made in years that he was able to use his own Portuguese because
Mm,
both he and Mendoza had spoken out against Bolsonaro.
yeah.
And so, for example, Mendoza made a film in 2018. It went to Berlin. He could not show it in Brazil until 2021.
It's
I
wild. That's after that regime had fallen apart
Yeah,
and
and
they're
so
like
in a
more
way,
democratic.
he really embodies what he is showing in terms of the dignity of the character to stand up to an oppressive dictatorship. You know, he and Moira embody and stand up for exactly what this film shows. And you don't know that going into the film,
No.
but I think it resonates the honesty of the film. But the other aspect, and we may talk about this later, is the way he makes it so funny in some parts. I mean, to be able to blend those, to segue from such serious, oppressive commentary without ever again, I think, being on his soapbox, and then to have these just ridiculously funny scenes. And he said, it's like real life. That's how you live.
Exactly. And it's always with grace too. This kind of really aware, but not self-aware filmmaking. And he's well. Before we do that, you mentioned the lead character, Andrew. We can talk about the way the narrative works, but
Mm.
do you think you can set up for people who is the secret agent?
Yeah, Moore plays this character who, um, through a good portion of the film, we know him as Marcelo, but we eventually learned that his real name is Armando.
Mhm.
Um, he was a professor, academic of some kind, or researcher. I don't think it's ever exactly specified what his specific technical expertise is. He seems to be an engineer of some kind, and also the head of a department at a sort of regional university. And he's in hiding. And we don't even really learn these basic biographic facts about him until like halfway through the movie, is my
Mm,
impression. What we know about him from the very first scene is that he's nervous and he's on the run. He's moving from place to place. He's trying to get away, to get out. And the conditions in the military dictatorship in Brazil at the time, this movie set in 1977,
Mhm.
are such that even when he doesn't have anything overt to be scared about, he's always a little bit on edge. He's always a little bit looking over his shoulder. Um, you mentioned the title, The Secret Agent. You know, it's one of those films where you could parse all kinds of meanings from that title and decide who is the secret agent or what is the secret agent in this film. But one of the things I loved about its sort of use of genre tropes, right? The idea that we're taking the idea of a political thriller or a spy thriller and using it for a slightly different purpose is that we, the audience, are as much in the dark for a good running of the film as the characters are. That half of what the film is doing is creating a thriller scenario where we're worried for Marcelo and we want him to get away with it. We want him to get out of the situation and get his son. He has a young son that he's trying to reconnect with and then leave the country with that son, presumably, is his end goal. We want him to achieve that, and so we're tense in the thriller situations. We're tense in the thriller scenarios. But there's also the mystery of why is he even in this situation, and it's more of an audience directed mystery, right? And the film only slowly uncoils that about what exactly it is that he's trying to get away from. The specifics are specific, but really the general answer, he wants to get away from this military dictatorship and everything that it represents in terms of oppression and humanitarian rights and right-wing authoritarianism. He's trying to get away from all that. But there is a specific answer that's sort of nestled inside the film that we only gradually get through sort of like discursive flashbacks that kind of jump around in time.
I brought up that he's a novelistic filmmaker, and not just simply talking about how he structures his films in chapters. And I'm including Pictures of Ghosts, which is a really great documentary, a biographical documentary he made about his upbringing in Recife, but also like the cinemas in Recife and the national cinema. And it, Diane talking about the personal as political, like he makes these direct lines in that film, but always graceful, always with personhood in mind. This one has, I think, not to be hyperbolic, as I tend to be, but one of the great opening scenes, in that you have no fucking clue what is going on, except everything is out of whack because it's a guy pulling up to a gas station wanting gas. However, there is a rotting corpse just beside it. And so it's such, and talking about the novelistic nature of it, it's these beautifully sketched details that eventually emerge as a whole picture. And that's why it feels a lot different. The way I experience his films feel different from pretty much anything else that's happening right now, in the way that they kind of unfold, and with the amount of kind of like carefully withheld information, because it's about also being in the moment. But yeah, he does these flashbacks, he does these chapter breaks. At one point you think the film has gone completely off the rails, and you are also like super excited for, I'm talking about the leg. He's also so smart about kind of genre ideas and genre conventions too. And I think that this one is his ultimate. I wouldn't say like what you were talking about, Diane. I wouldn't say it's like a polished movie. It really is feeling, and it's not like this kind of perfected thing, and that's to its benefit.
I don't know about that. I do want to push back on that a bit, because one of the things I really love about this film is how much I feel like the craft has been elevated. This feels like a movie he's been preparing to make for about 20 years and thinking about. And
I agree.
And to me, like particularly that opening sequence, I think is so pristine. There's something both like exquisitely on the nose about a rotting corpse covered with a piece of cardboard as like an allegory for the absurdity of living under a military dictatorship, and yet it feels tactile and substantive, and it feels like something like out of a Dennis Johnson novel, right? Like it's a detail that yes, there was a bloated corpse laying there in the parking lot and we all just kind of talked around it.
But it's the elephant in the room too.
And they can't come out to get it yet because Carnival is going on. And he says in an interview, he said, that is so Brazilian that, Carnival has to come first.
I talked the last episode, Josh, about how one of the reasons I love Wes Anderson, I think he's a filmmaker of interesting detail. Mm-hmm. Not just detail for detail's sake, but interesting detail. And I think this film is so aesthetically different from anything Anderson does, I think this really exemplifies the way that Mendoza really has that same instinct. That like the detail of the right-wing chief of police showing up the first time we see him, he's coming back from Carnival with like glitter in his hair and lipstick smeared on his lips. Like it's such a offbeat detail, but it's the kind of thing you can imagine that Mendoza insisted upon because it's the specificity of it that everybody participates in Carnival.
And Carnival takes over. Exactly what you said, Andrew, because this is like the tip of the iceberg where this one little scene tells you everything really that you need to know, because then another car goes by with the Carnival people yelling and screaming and happy and cheering. And meantime, here lies the corpse. So it's like, eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow you may die. And here
You
he
may get
is.
eaten by a shark.
And there's also there's a second car that drives up and reacts, I think, as a normal person might, and
Yeah.
is totally freaked out. I mean, but when I talk about like how it's not perfected, he just has this. His narratives have really well defined curves, and they're often like they come from genre, or they're, I wouldn't call them plot heavy, but they have plot mechanics to them. But what we're not really sketching yet here is that this is a film of faces and character and conversations. And after this opening scene, you get him and you're getting glimpses or kind of ideas that he's going into hiding before everything's really revealed to you. And the community that he goes into is actually full of refugees, political refugees.
Political refugees. And the woman who runs it is a non-professional actress.
Diane, please talk about her.
She is a jewel. And yeah, listening to Maura talk about her, he said, you never knew what she was going to do. Every scene was different. He said, because she's a non-professional actress. And he said, everybody just loved her. She was just, and this is something else that Mendoza likes to do, is he likes to blend professional and non-professional. And I think exactly what both of you are talking about, it brings an honesty as well as a humanity to what he shows. I have to read you what he says about the hairy leg, because I didn't get this the first time.
So we should set it up though. There's a news story going around, and it's actually a part of the plot too, that they have found a severed leg that has been swallowed by a shark. There's also, oh my God, this film. Oh my God, I fucking love this movie. Sorry.
Jaws is showing, and his son wants
Jaws
nothing
is
more than
showing,
to
his son is
Jaws.
kind of obsessed with it, and like everything kind of ends up giving you, it's such a holistic picture of life, and the value of cinema. Diane, what did he say about that?
This is what he said in an interview for Telluride about that. He said there were two journalists who were tired of being censored in the newspapers because, I mean, it really was an incredibly oppressive dictatorship. They decided to come up with the hairy leg, which represented the police, our military police. Let me see. The police would go to the parks where the gay community would hang out, and we see this in the film, along with heterosexual lovers, behaving in ways that were not respectable. The police would beat the shit out of people. Many would end up in the hospital. They'd never file complaints because, of course, it would be immoral to be caught in a situation like that. But the hairy leg would be in the newspaper the next day. Quote, the hairy leg attacked last night again at the park. And everybody would understand that it was the police.
Oh my God.
Isn't
Wait,
that great?
so in the film there is a literal leg, but it is a byproduct of police corruption.
Yes.
I'm just kind of astonished, like the way that he can make that manifest content. Like that is
as a
incredible.
like goofy little stop motion interlude, like set into this, like it's his one. This is a very grounded film in most respects, but that's like the one genre flourish he adds, sort of like the UFO drones in Baccarat, right? It's the one crazy little dose of craziness amid all the grounded political maneuvering.
Yeah, I mean that in and of itself is also a kind of genre maneuvers, right? Like everything that he has to do, and especially in the last chapter of this film. But that was kind of the first thing you and I talked about, Diane, is how the ending pulls the rug out from under you.
Oh, amazing.
What you've got also in this film is a flash forward
Yes.
to two women who seem to be working on like archiving or What did you like podcasting or something during?
It's some kind of academic research archiving
Yes.
You
old
think so?
tapes
Okay.
from the resistance during the dictatorship.
Yeah.
I love that there is a frame narrative in this movie that doesn't show up till like an hour and a half into the movie. It's a frame narrative that was always there. We didn't know it existed.
Yeah. And
That's crazy. I love that.
They're
Well, wait.
investigating, trying to historically document what went on from 1964 to 1985. Which was the
Truth
great
and reconciliation
dictatorship.
shorts.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
and this was the middle of it, and he starts it in 77 because he's basically that boy. That's exactly how old he was in 1977. And as you know from the documentary Pictures of Ghost, this is where he grew up. This is what he experienced autobiographically. And then this Secret Agent is more what he remembers historically. And I told you I have a friend, two Brazilians and I are doing a panel at the Society for Cinema Studies in March on memory and history. And how do we remember it? How much do we talk about it? How do we basically interpret it? And that's what these two women are doing with the tapes, is they're trying to discover and document. It's almost like a Holocaust project. We want to document what happened because there are so many people who disappeared. There were so many people who were murdered, and we have to know when and how. We have to do something about this. And you just get a bit of that with the hitmen, which are really like Three Stooges kind of thing in the film. And yet
They are, but they're also scary.
they're deadly. They are killing people.
Yeah. Yeah. But Andrew, that's such a great point. If this film is about anything, it's the story that was always there, but you didn't know. Right. And to your panel that, oh man, I want to come to that. You're going to let me read that paper, Diane.
I will. Oh, I can't wait to hear these other, because the one person, Otavio Bueno, is on the panel. He grew up in Sao Paulo during this time.
Wow.
And he's going to talk about I'm Still Here, which is another great film. And Mendoza said that what he likes about this is it's far away from Rio and Sao Paulo and all of this global import that most people think of. But he wants to show how this little northwestern city, not northwestern, northeastern, because it's on the Atlantic coast, this little northeastern city of Recife, that it impacted there too. This is also going on. People are taking advantage of the political corruption, and
there's a lot of texture, like Brazilian texture, that I'm sure went over my head, but I like sensed it on the margins, like stuff about central versus provincial, rural versus urban, academic versus blue collar. Like there's a lot of subtext in here that as an American viewer I can feel it sort of murmuring in there, but I'm obviously not like picking up on all the subtleties of it. One of the things I loved about Pictures of Ghosts was that it made me aware of how pivotal Recife was to the international cinema industry. That I had never heard of this before, that the American Hollywood studios at the height of its economic power, Hollywood studios had offices in downtown Recife where all these big movie palaces were. That's how central this particular city was to the international cinema as a product and as an entertainment. Often, as we see with Jaws, a lot of times those American movies were showing up years after the fact, but it didn't matter. There's a thing in Pictures of Ghosts where he talks about The Godfather. For 1 month in the 1970s, The Godfather played 24/7 for a month at one of those movie places. They just programmed it forever, endlessly.
Well, it's the projectionist talks about when he hears the music, he wants to kill himself. You know what's a really fun detail though? Pictures of Ghosts, like all of the Hollywood studios having their like remote offices, they were all in the same building.
Yeah.
Right. But who also had a film office there? The Nazi Party.
And Mendoza started as a film theorist. He's like the French New Wave. Yeah. He started as a film critic and then decided, well, I can make films, and started making films.
Yeah, he did this documentary where he interviewed critics and filmmakers called Critico. Mm-hmm. And I want to track it down now. I'm kind of, all in on the man. But it's not readily available in the States. It's never been distributed here in the States. So we
Yeah.
have to go to certain websites to
Yeah.
find that. And I don't know what
But
those are at
exactly
all.
what you said also and called attention to, Andrew, is every little detail. And he talks about that. He said, all of these details are what I remember growing up. And he said, of course, Brazilians would give it. He said, I wanted to place it in 1977, even to little things like, can I make a phone call? Well, as long as it's not long distance. He said the Brazilians would laugh when they hear that because it's like, this is what we have to worry about in 1977, making a phone call. And even just using the phones the way he does. But they would get every little detail. And one person I remember at one of the press conferences or one of the Q&As said, well, who is the person on the wall? You know, you show these portraits and we, of course, don't have a frame of reference for it. But the most important one is the President General Ernesto, and I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly, Geisel, Geisel. And he was the president beginning in 74. And his picture is on the wall. So, you know, it'd be like all the president's men and you see Nixon.
Right.
That kind of resonance for anybody who knows Brazilian history.
Yeah, and that it's on the wall of the, leftists, the people who the Underground Railroad getting people out of the country. It's this kind of, he has a lot of things about Brazilian culture and class in all of his films. Like, it seems like all middle class people have some sort of help that is some kind of extension in their family, at least in the world of his films. But they always, if they're not like how he talks about in Pictures of Ghosts, like utilizing his family home, they have like this central hub of activity centered around the community, and the community as a kind of group, like a collective against some other outside force that is trying to break up the collective or impinge upon their rights. And it's, I don't really want to go here with this, but it's it
But you go.
feels you're right. It just feels really pertinent to, what's going on in our politics and culture and society and whatever. Yeah, I really don't actually want to get into it. But
But
after watching it, it's hard not to. And I think
no,
that's
of
sort of the
course.
point in that even though it's very detailed, it's very specific to the time, there's universality in how these things work. And that you could set this elsewhere where autocratic governments are, attacking leftist politics, and in the other way too. But I don't know where I'm going with that. Come on,
Well,
Avery.
I do think that there's an inherent like melancholy or tension to how this film presents its community. So we have this community of refugees, right? All sort of living in this apartment complex or this building under sort of Dona Sebastiana's Dona Sebastiana, that's her name, I think. Her sort of protection or guardianship. But the sort of the heartbreak of it is this is not a group of people who are going to stay together in this community for a long time. Everybody in this group is in flight. So this is a way station. At some level, everybody's going to move on from this house at some point. And they all recognize that on some level. And there's that great scene, so I think in the final third or so of the film, where they're all sort of gathered in her living room doing shots and talking about the future. And you get a sense for that. But that's sort of the tension. Unlike a film like Baccarat, which is about that community sort of standing solid against the forces of outside encroachment, this is an inherently transient community. People are going to come in and people are going to go away. The building and Dona are presumably going to stay there, but the people moving in and out are going to move on to other things. And that's sort of fascinating to me that the scenario itself has a sort of built-in transience or wistfulness to it. These are people who are literally like, again, there's like spy games tropes sort of hovering over this. People are passing in the night through a safe house, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen that in so many espionage films before.
But he finds work doing, and what is the building called? But it's
Identification Bureau.
right, because before he flees, he's looking for proof of his mother's existence.
Yeah.
His mother, who was a political prisoner, and no record of her officially exists anywhere. And he takes on this job, but as it turns out, it's sort of like anything can just be police business. And one of the very first things that he does is like have to sit at a desk on his very first day and allow like police official business. And that business is so interesting about class and identity in the area too. But what ends up happening is like there's still community of people who are like-minded, and even though they might not be in clear channels with each other, there's a moment where someone recognizes that he's using an assumed name, and it kind of clicks to them to let him use that assumed name and to not give up what he's doing because he's a refugee and he's up to something. But whatever he's up to, I know it's against them, and I'm disinterested in interrupting his business.
Yeah.
And so that it's like it's really heartening too to see this kind of like in one battle after another, how there's a kind of community based upon like-mindedness or politics.
He said it's, I mean, Brazil is a very classist and racist society in many ways. And he said in another interview, Brazilians rarely say, just because we're Brazilians, when you say I'm Brazilian, you should be aware of what it means. It means you're white, Portuguese, indigenous, with some African elements, maybe with some Italian, but because of racism, this is rarely addressed.
Yeah, and it's
Very, very sensitive to that. And he's also sensitive in this through Udo Kier, the Holocaust man.
rest
That scene.
rest in peace. Like,
Pardon? Yes, I know. And he was such good friends with him. He's in his last two films, Udo Kier, who just died, a week ago.
yeah.
And in just a recent interview with him that I was listening to today, he said he came and stayed with him for like 8 days when they were making the film. He took him and showed, they saw the film in Santa Monica when there was a screening there, like almost up to his last days. And he even thanked the interviewer for bringing him up. He said, I love this man so much. I'm so glad that you even brought his name up and asked me about him, which says so much about Mendoza's humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in that scene where he's playing a Holocaust survivor,
Yeah.
right?
But
Not just survivor.
again, an awful lot of people escaped to South America, as we know, Brazil, Argentina, primarily. And so he's also historically giving a nod to that, including a commentary on that as well.
Yeah, it's as if you can draw this through line, ignoring the specifics culturally. It might come in different colors, but there's a through line of action in all of these movements, and the cyclical nature of history, which by the end of the film, he's maybe even more obviously calling attention to.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a little bit about how this film also functions, in addition to all the amazing things it's doing as a work of politics and as a thriller and as a humanitarian story about this character? There's also some like wonderful meta stuff going on about the role of films and the way that both video and, in particular in this film, audio can offer a portal to the past. Like, I mean, that's what the frame narrative is about, right? These women are listening. These young women are listening to audio tapes of interviews that happened 50 years ago, and using that to sort of transport. I mean, the film makes that transport explicit by cutting back and forth across time. We get these like great moments where the characters actually like hit the stop button on the tape recorder, and then for the characters in the present day, the narrative stops. They're not privy to what happens when the record button is paused. And it's such an amazing, and all this is happening incidentally in like the upper floors above a movie palace. Like that's not accidental, right? That he's commenting about how these media themselves become essential aspects of reconnecting with the past or not. One of the things I like about the ending is that the researcher gives the thumb drive to
His son,
Ronaldo?
I'm not sure what his name is,
His name.
but
Fernando, sorry.
Yeah. And
One of
that
the things,
also is Moira, by the way.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Almost unrecognizable because the way they do them. But
It's like me recording last week, me recording this week,
right,
just no beard.
no, the there's a moment at the end where that researcher gives that flash drive to him and says, your choice, because he's somewhat ambivalent. He's like, I don't know if I want to listen to my father's voice talking about his, especially knowing how his father's story ended. He's like, I don't know if I want this. And what she tells him is, it's your call. It's not like I'm giving you access to this, and it's your decision about whether you want to listen to it or not. And that freedom, having the choice, I think is what matters there more than, ooh, did he listen or not? Doesn't matter. It's that she gave him the opportunity he didn't have before, if he ever wants to take it.
Do you guys remember how the end of Killers of the Flower Moon went?
Yeah.
How we like cut to that radio show and they're telling the story. It reminded me so much of that, but it's even more complex here because there's layers of family, layers of like identification with the young researcher, and the idea that he becomes like a tick mark, in the history of this country. And we've just spent, 2+ hours with him. But the moment that we don't get to see, which is like kind of lovely that we don't watch him get, torn to shreds or whatever. And that it's, transmuted into storytelling and how we tell the stories and who gets to tell the story, like with the choice that he has to make at the end. And it's not does he do it or not, it's about who has the right to do it.
It's about the excavation of the artifact, that
Yeah.
oral, that audio artifact from the past, and giving it to basically the only surviving person to whom it would actually matter at this point.
And how
And
important
there's
it is
something lovely
to
about that.
document history, how critical it is to document history.
Yeah.
With those recordings and with that newspaper. I remember gasps in the audience when the newspaper picture is shown. I was gasping. But how important it is. I mean, there's a strong commentary also about journalism, about recording things, about remembering history. But you have to have it recorded in order to access it. And of course,
with the recognition, I think,
Right.
within the text of the film, that memory itself is a little bit faulty.
Yes.
There's that great moment where Marcelo gives us the day that his sort of nemesis from private industry shows up at his university, and he has to give him a tour and everything. And there's some fallouts. But then he says, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. I'm not giving the context. Let me back up and talk about what happened the night before. And that to me, that's a great little touch, because it adds the idea that even this sort of this artifact, this audio recording, which is sort of what we would call primary source, right, in historiography, even that is dependent on one man telling it right and remembering it right and telling it in the right order. Like there are so many layers of human fallibility possible to get to the truth, because it sometimes seems insurmountable. I'm gushing a lot, but like it's clearly part of what this film is doing. It's doing so many things, and it's doing so many of those things really well. It's hard not to just gush about it.
Yeah, and it's really hard because it's also stylistically so rich, and it's a thrilling experience too. It's the suspense of, finding out what's going on is thrilling, but also is he going to make it or not? And then,
Well, the
and
climactic like hitman versus hitman stalking sequence
great.
is so beautifully executed.
Yeah.
Again, for a filmmaker who didn't really sort of make his bones in the thriller genre, it's amazing to see how well he executes. Like this very Coen-esque sequence with this like
It is.
rangy, like dark-eyed hitman kind of like fumbling his way through this bloodbath. It's great.
in the way that you were talking earlier about him like developing to this over the past 20 years, it does actually, you can see the seeds of what he's doing in Neighboring Sounds, which is a movie about an apartment complex and its denizens, and just how as tension rises for maybe no reason that you don't find out until, sorry, spoilers for this, until about the last 30 seconds of the film. And it just completely obliterates your idea of what was happening in the film. And yet, he's still such a gifted filmmaker in realizing that tension. Even in these scenes in The Secret Agent, where he's getting introduced to people in the community, you're already set by the first scene in which that body is just lying there and he's, oh my God, and the tension between him being searched by the police and resisting very respectfully, but trying to toe a line. And it's very obvious that that is happening. He has throughout his career kind of gestured towards the thriller. And especially think about the latter half of Baccarat and what he's doing here. I think I could see how someone who's a big fan of his earlier films would think that this one feels like he's moving in a direction that they appreciate the even more subtle ways that he's making thrillers before. Even Aquarius feels like a thriller. In its own,
Aquarius is a siege movie. Let's be honest.
it's a siege movie.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I was telling you guys I watched it right up until about when we were recording. You don't know how fucking elated I was by the end of that movie.
That's
But-
great.
But what do you think about the idea that he's a maybe slightly restive filmmaker, that he's there's these themes, right, that pop up over and over again, but he is sort of like genre hopping a little bit, particularly with like Back Row. It feels like now that he's like middle aged, he's settling into, okay, I'll do my autobiographical documentary, I'll do my like weird Western movie, I'll do my spy thriller. But at the same time, there is that craft you talk about, and that great sort of virtuosic sense of clarity about what he's doing and why. There's nothing is sort of loose as films can sometimes feel. I never get the feeling that anything's done on a whim. Everything feels so intentional, even though the films themselves have a certain sort of looseness to them.
The music and the films that he references in this all feel almost therapeutic.
Right.
It's so autobiographical. I have to include all of this.
That's the
But
first
it's-
of Chicago in there.
Yeah, yeah. But he also said that with Moira, he wanted him to always feel a little uncertain, a little offbeat. And he references Cary Grant in North by Northwest. He says, kind of like Cary Grant in North by Northwest.
I
So
get
you
that
know
now.
he's got this in his head about,
Mora's performance is so good because he always feels a little bit flabbergasted that he's in this situation. Every time he learns a new detail about his situation and what exactly is going to have to happen, like he just seems more and more like, I can't fucking believe, like he seems half a step behind everybody else all the time, mostly because he's just sort of sitting there going, I can't believe it's come to this. I have a death threat because of some asshole hovering over me. And now there's hitmen. Wait, what? And like him being sort of schooled on those John le Carre like elements in real time as he's learning that, yes, this is your life now. You're I hope you like spy stories, sir, because you're in one.
yeah,
Yeah, the Hitchcock comparison is so good
yeah,
because
it's so perfect
Come
because
on,
there's
man.
Cary Grant, who exactly what you were just saying. Also, every time he learns a new detail, it is what I'm what now. I'm going where? You're who? I'm in the CIA, FBI, whatever the alphabet soup is. Huh? Where? Why?
But whereas Grant operates in that sort of like heightened classical Hollywood register, part of what makes Moore's performance so interesting is that he's doing those same reactions, but doing them much softer, doing them
Yes.
in a kind of understated way, which
Yeah.
sort of helps build the naturalism of the film.
but he's just as hot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a straight dude. I'm like, that is a handsome man right
What
there.
a good looking man. His
He was in
face is
person
so
too. I got to meet both Mendoza and Moira at Telluride just very briefly because I wanted to tell them about the panel and ask if I had any more questions, if I could contact them. And Mendoza, I mean, I don't know how I'm ever going to get hold of it, but he was, yeah, absolutely. I'm perfectly open to all of this.
Oh my God. Get him on the pod, Diane. No. I'm
I'd
kidding.
love to.
All right. Well, so we've come to a very important bit of business. Diane, we've been building a kind of take up canon. And we've got this very silly system of we're only allowed so many votes each. Unless we agree on a film that needs to go in, then we save the vote. So far, we have, I'm trying to do it from memory, and it's going to be worse every time we add one. So I put in Far From Heaven. You got him? No,
I'll pull
I'm
up the
doing it
list.
from memory. Come on, let me do it. Far From Heaven, No Country for Old Men, Cliff Raylet came on, and we put Taxi Driver in. Shit. Come on, what, Andrew, what are they?
These have to be earlier films, classic films, or current films, or
Oh, the next one is One Battle After Another.
oh, okay.
We put Misericordia in, and Andrew,
I'm pulling it up. Hang on.
Bradley, and Rushmore.
Yes.
Producer Ethan, did I just get all 7?
I have to switch letterbox accounts to find this. Sorry.
Yeah. See, I did it from memory. So they don't have to be older films because we kind of alternate between new films and guest picks. And we forced you to pick this one, but we'll have you on again with just whatever film you want to pick.
Okay.
But I think it's now we have to determine if we are equally enthusiastic about this. I have already screamed, I fucking love this movie.
I do too. I alternated between this and it was just an accident because I love both of these and I can't figure out which is one and which is two.
Speaking of dissident filmmaking, Jesus.
Yeah, it's been a big year. Andrew, would you put The Secret Agent in the bunker?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
throw my
me too,
vote.
bro.
I'll give you a freebie on this one.
Yeah.
This one's
Oh,
good.
okay. A freebie.
No, I think we need. I mean, and this is partly because I think this is Mendoza's becoming one of my one of my favorite filmmakers, and I feel like this, like I said, this feels like a film he was building to for a long time, so it feels like eminently deserved to be added to our canon.
Very good.
Throw it in the vault. Throw away the key. Wait, no, don't throw away the key.
Don't throw away the key.
We got more to add later. That's fine.
Yes, yeah. We'll parse out keys to our fans. Okay, so we've got another 2025 release in there.
Yeah.
How about for one more thing, Diane, if you'll stick around, how about everyone gives a 2025 film that is maybe underseen or another one that's upcoming that you want to recommend? Andrew, did you have one immediately?
No, I haven't seen enough movies
Okay,
this
well,
year.
I'll
It's been
go,
a bad year for me for seeing new releases.
I'll go first, and I hope I don't take anyone's choice here because Be Gone has a new film coming out.
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Oh God, I just watched.
Is that going to be
yesterday
screening here?
again.
Did you like it, Diane?
Oh God, yeah, it's overwhelming. It's I saw it at Cannes, but it was a late night screening, and I was just fighting to stay awake. And I just a couple of times I almost nodded off, and then I came to, and all of a sudden we've got.
He would say that
would
is a
love
great
that.
way to watch his movies.
Yes, yes.
Yes, he would. I will not explain what this film is about other than it is about the history of cinema.
Yes.
And Andrew, I think you and I both had Long Day's Journey into Night as our favorite film of 2019. Our group nominated it, the critics group, we nominated it in our top 10 for Best Picture that year, whatever. But we saw it in 3D this year. Was that this year?
Last year.
Was that last year? Holy
Yeah,
shit.
that was last year.
Anyway, this film, just folks aren't ready. And it stars Shuki. People would know from if you're a big Hong Kong fan. She's Taiwanese, though.
I kept thinking of Wong Kar-wai.
There's so much to think about. He is. I will say that there are chapters, kind of, but it reminds me of Holy Motors, the Leos Carax film, and that it is
that's an interesting comparison.
a metafictional film, but it follows one character in these sections, and they're played by the same person. And you know how Long Day's Journey into Night has the huge long take at the end, and it's like, you know, you're yourself levitating into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
There are things in this, yeah. It is gonna right.
Well, you know how we have for the St. Louis Film Critics, we have best scenes. The very last scene in this is on my list. That
Okay,
is just
it's on my list too.
amazing concluding scene.
It it's astonishing filmmaking. It's a lot of filmmaking. A lot of people will start it and say, "What the fuck did you get me
Yeah.
into?" But I think those people are crazy because it is immediately arresting. But that's Begon's Resurrection. It's going to play locally here. There's a preview screening at Webster University Film Series on December 18th. I will definitely be there, even though I've seen it. But then it's going to have a shorter or a longer run, I think 4 nights in January.
Yes.
But I would see it early, so you can put it on your list like it's going to make mine.
Oh, it's going to be on mine for sure. In fact, it's
Diane, do you
number
have
three on my best film list right now.
It's number 3.
After it was Just an Accident and Secret Agent.
Oh man, Amber, did you watch It Was Just an Accident yet?
No, I have it right. It's in my
You
neon
do,
set.
you do have it,
And
man.
that's another one that Panahi is just so amazing, and that's another one we could talk about sometime. You know, that came from his 7 months in prison. All of those stories, the stories came from when he was in prison. The latest time he was in prison. He's
Right.
been in prison before, but the
God.
latest time, and he can't go back now. If he goes back, he's in for another 7 years.
And talk about astonishing endings. Not to say anything about it. That's on my list. Diane, do you have another film that you would recommend from this year, or that might be upcoming or underseen?
Well, I'm going to cheat and say too, I think Sentimental Value is really good. I think it's really good. Stellan Skarsgård plays again an older director, and it's kind of like Jay Kelly, only serious.
It's kind of like Jake Kelly, but way
Only
better.
without George Clooney. This is kind of serious stuff. But the other one, I gravitate to the political films. The President's Cake,
I
which,
haven't seen this one yet. What's that one about?
well, it is. We are coming into, of course, this is Iraq. We're coming into Hussein's birthday, and so everybody has to do something for his birthday, including these children in a school, and they live on these little isolated islands, and they pick 2 special people, and the girl has to get the ingredients for a cake, and the boy has to get some fruit, and they have to do this or the president will be insulted. And so they go to the nearby city in order to try to get the ingredients, and it's their story of moving through the city. But again, of course, like in this, it just uncovers everything you need to know about Iraq at that time.
It's giving Kiarostami, earlier Kiarostami. Is that a good touch point for that?
Yeah,
Like, where's
yeah.
the friend's home?
This is not nearly as there's some suspense in it, but it's a lot lighter, I think is how I would say.
Okay.
It's a lot lighter. And yet you're a little fearful for them several times. I think she's like 7 or 8 years old. I
Oh my
haven't gone
God.
back and looked at it for a while.
Well, we'll look forward to that one. That was The President's Cake, and the first one was Sentimental Value. A little bit more mixed on Sentimental Value. I can appreciate what's going on in it, but that'll be a whole other conversation. I think I have more kind of hangups with
I
Joachim
think it's
Trier
the
as a
acting that
filmmaker.
won me over in that.
It's acting like it's Stellan Skarsgård. Well, and Renata Rensfield and whoever plays it. Yeah, they give him all the gold. It's fine. All right, Andrew. What about you?
I haven't seen a lot of movies this year. I've been falling down on my critic duties because of personal stuff going on. So I'm looking at my letterbox and plucking out something. What else have I seen earlier this year? I did do some horror catch up this summer on 2025 horror films. And a film I still am thinking about a lot is Bring Her Back by the Philippou brothers. This is a film Ethan actually reviewed this on our site, I believe, and excellent review. Go read it. Takeup.com. So I did have some sense of what it was going to be about and like what it was doing. I liked their previous film, Talk to Me, but I wasn't maybe as huge a fan as some other horror aficionados out there. This movie, however, really got its nails into me. It is a gnarly ass, dark, emotional. Like, one thing I like when horror movies are emotionally perverse. And what I mean by that is like they're willing to do things, not just set you up with monsters that are threatening people or acts with killers, which is fun too, but the idea of creating a situation that is psychologically and emotionally perverse, and that is the source of the horror in as much as the witchcraft and occult shit that's happening. I don't know how to describe this film, but it's basically a fairy tale. It's a brother and sister in a witch's house, and horrible shit is happening, and they're not really aware of it. Sally Hawkins is this playing like a really barn burner of a role for her, where she gets to sort of dance on this line between baddie aunt and evil witch.
She's just so monumental in this film.
Good. It's also just like a gnarly, gross movie, like in a way that not people think gnarly gross, they think like gore, but like there's stuff that happens in this movie that just makes me so
really gory too. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? There's like two things that happen in this movie.
Anything with teeth really gets under my skin.
There's something with teeth. There is something with teeth. Yeah. I agree wholeheartly. I think this film is really underrated, and as a portrait of grief and the way it twists your mind, it's so beautifully done. I would not recommend it. I couldn't recommend it more highly.
I really appreciated that the filmmakers have a really interesting route into the story, in that the brother and sister in the film have different parents, and their father has recently died, but the idea that they each had different mothers is like both a source of implicit but not explicit tension. And the idea of their, like, how strong is this brother-sister bond is really the fundamental question of the film. And are they going to stand by each other in the end and protect each other or not? I really appreciate that the lead actress in the film, her character in the film is visually impaired, and they actually went out and found a visually impaired actress to play her. They did a big casting search to find her, and she's great in it. It's just a cool horror film. I think in the year where we've had some really excellent horror films, I don't think this one is getting enough attention. So I do highly recommend it if you haven't seen it yet.
Let's bring her back. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, there we have it. We've talked about a lot of movies, a lot of things for y'all to watch. Diane, thank you so much for coming on. I remembered that we were going to record this, and remembered talking to Diane about it. And we've had emails going back and forth. And I'm like, please come talk about this.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was a treat for me. It's like twist my arm and make me talk about a movie I adore. Right.
Make me talk about things I love. How dare you?
Yeah.
Andrew, where can people find you?
TheTakeUp.com is the best place to find me.
And Take Up STL. And on our next episode, we got a week off. But then we're coming back with Keith Watson and Sarah Rivera, the proprietors of the Cotton Cinema and Bar, are going to bring a little underseen film called Suspiria. I wonder if that one's going in the vault. We teased before, it didn't happen, but it's going to happen this time. And then after that, we got producer Ethan has a pick. And it's 2018 Suspiria? How did that happen?
We are doing back-to-back Suspirias.
Back-to-back Suspirias. So,
I love it.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Until then,
a lot of witchy goodness.
I guess I'll watch Suspiria for the 15th time. And yes, I mean both. Thank you to Kayla McCullough for our social media. Theme music by AMP. And Secret Agent Man. This is a bit that I do every time I sing a song. And I'm embarrassed now, so.